to another episode of Cosmic Conversations. I'm your hostess, Marla Martenson, and I am again with the amazing Carol Howe. Hey, Carol, how are you doing?
I'm great, honey. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. Carol, you guys, is an author, a counselor, an internationally recognized master teacher of A Course in Miracles. So we are going to talk about something that the Course talks about, and that is what is death. Because I've got this kind of fascination with death. My husband's from Mexico. We go down there a lot. I love those skulls and the Day of the Dead and all of that kind of stuff. And I recently have been trained to volunteer for hospice, and we had a death cafe. About 6 of us got together, had some food, even some champagne, and we talked about death to try to make us comfortable with it. And so I think since it's going to happen to all of us, I would love to hear, Carol, what does the Course say about it? And what do you say about it? And how we should feel about it?
Well, that reminds me, when one gets to be a senior citizen, which of course I am, you periodically get mailings from, and I get this periodically. It's like, would you like to talk to us about cremation service? And I always think, no, I'm not ready to have a cremation conversation.
Oh, it's so rude.
Come in and talk to us about this. So the Course would say that when we're not living out of the love that we are, the love and the light, which are not just words, that is the absolute truth of us, we are living in a deadened state. So you might say, we're about as dead as you can get right now. And so I think it's the end of the 3rd chapter where it says, you don't leave this world by death, but by truth. And what that means is its teaching, as other teachings of non-duality, is that the world of time and space, where it seems like, we're all separate objects and there's some sort of space that's got nothing in it, that separates it, that all of that is so not how it really is. But that's the mythology that we have bought into, so to speak, and that what we're really experiencing is more a hallucination. It's called the veil of Maya in the East. It's a hallucination. It's an illusion. It's something that is covering over something much more profound and amazing that is right here, actually. And I've had a few of those experiences into another dimension besides this one, so to speak, and all of the writing is right. This one is kind of at the bottom of the totem pole compared to the amazing, unspeakable, completely indescribable kind of joy and peace and oneness and so on that's actually going on all the time. In other words, it would be like if I have a lot of windows in my house because I have a lot of beautiful yards. So let's say I had the drapes drawn across a window and I said, I would give anything if I had trees and grass and flowers and pretty stuff in my yard. I must go get them. It's like, no, that's the wrong quest. They're already there. Your job is to see, what do I have to do to open up the drape and the door to see what I've always wanted is already here. So love and peace and joining and union and so on is already in place, but our fear and our guilt act like a veil across, and we can't see it. It's like right where we are is an amazing experience. And so the purpose of non-duality teachings like the Course would be to say, how about if we get to have you be undead? How about as you keep changing your mind, because its purpose is to reprogram your brain, if we want to use the kind of technological approach to things, so that as your guilt decreases, as your fear decreases, as your love and your peace and your expanded state of mind, your expanded consciousness grows and grows and grows and grows, people then can begin to actually see the love and light that's right here. So the idea about death is not that it's something that's going to happen later. It would be more like you're as dead as you're going to get right now. So the only place you can kind of go up is up.
Well,
And
and then when you said you were in the other dimensions, do you talk about that? Was it a near-death experience, or was that in meditation?
I have a very good friend who did have a near. In fact, for those of you who want to check out our See How Life Works online program, where I teach to a little class, one of the girls, who's also a very good friend of mine, is in that class, and she describes her experience. And this is really important. I'll tell it to you. I'll try to be fast.
Yeah.
And that is when she was 17 years old, she was driving with a couple of girls up in Virginia. An accident, she was thrown out the front windshield. And she said it was amazing. Instantly, she was watching the whole scene. And she said it was a lot of fun. She could either zoom in or she could zoom out, and she could see the whole coastline of Virginia. In other words, she could play with this. And she said she heard the EMT guy say to another one of the girls, "Oh, she's dead." And then they came to her, and they said, "Oh, no, this one's dead too." And she kept saying, "No, I'm not dead. I'm right here." She said, "I was like right there watching them and watched him use the defibrillator thing, to get her heart started again." So they get her to the hospital, and 2 or 3 days later, she kind of wakes up from whatever and said, I'm condensing this story for our purposes. She said, "I would love to talk to the guy who saved my life." And they said, "Well, we don't have any idea who that is." And she said, "I do, because I saw his badge number and I saw the license plate on the back of his vehicle." Well, they thought she was delusional.
Yeah.
Of course. She kept asking. She started pulling out IVs. And finally, some little nurse comes in and says, "What would it take to get you to stop pulling all this stuff out?" And she said, "If somebody would listen to me." So in comes a social worker finally and takes down the information. She was right. They call, the guy came to see her. And she described what that was like. It was the typical, more delicious and wonderful and no doubt of being loved and protected and taken care of. And she said, "I was so surprised because not only were the dead people, like her, I don't know who, all grandparents or somebody, but a whole bunch of live people were there too." She said, "I didn't expect to see that." So you see, this is a very big arbitrary thing about the who's dead and who's alive part.
So she saw in the spirit world some people that had not crossed over yet?
Absolutely. Yes. You see, all we are, in a sense, are appearances. So if somebody dies, they don't go anywhere. Nothing happens. Like, where are you going to go if your basic being is eternal, infinite spirit? That means there aren't any edges to you. If there's not any edges to you, there's nothing you can get beyond to go to. See, nobody thinks about how crazy that is that we go somewhere, because we're not the body. The body is just part of the hallucinated part. So nobody goes anywhere. The only thing that happens, let's say when my mother died, she didn't go anywhere, but I stopped having an appearance of her in my mind. And that was it. So it would be marvelous if we realized that the state we're in now is like a deadened state that we can do something about. In other words, we can keep deciding, I'm going to allow my own healing to take place. I'm going to grow up, so to speak, and I'm going to become more. I'm insisting on dropping my own grievances, becoming clearer and lighter myself, and everybody then is in part of a waking up process. That is a waking up process.
Isn't it interesting how she remembered, like in real life, I would never be able to remember a license plate number and a badge number, but here she could, the spirit world has perfect memory.
Yes. Absolutely. And there are people, I know them, I have friends like this, and I'm sure you do too, who have that capacity to see the appearance of somebody. I had a client here once who was also a friend, and when we finished, because of where she was sitting in my living room, she said, "By the way, somebody's been walking up and down your hallway the whole time I've been here, because I've got these big cutout places on the wall between my living room and my hallway." And well, technically they don't really walk, they float. She described this person to a T I said, that was my brother who had died about 3 years before. And when the next time she came over, I showed her a picture of him before he died of Parkinson's disease. I showed her a picture of him. She said, that's who that was.
Wow.
And I said, why is he walking up and down my hallway? She said, because he just loves you. It's like you took care of him when he was dying. He's just here to look over you and take care of you and tell you he loves you.
Oh, that's beautiful. One of my psychic friends, Linda Salvin, was over the other night. We're sitting there, and she in my living room, and she says, oh, and it was the first time she'd been to my house, and there's a chair across, and she says, oh, your dad's sitting in that chair now, you know. And I know my dad's with me a lot, so that was nice. I was like, oh, hey.
Well, speaking of Bill Thetford, about whom I wrote, who was a good friend of mine, the same girl who could see somebody in the hallway, she was here on another occasion, and then all of a sudden you can see when people see something else, you know, because their eyes will suddenly shift over here. And she said, there's Bill Thetford standing right behind you. And you see, he's got that blue sweater on that he wears a lot.
Wow.
And a lot of people said, oh, Bill is so with you.
Yeah.
And I do believe that. I absolutely do. And you know what else is just too bizarre for words? I never dreamed this would happen. A lot of people who have read his book, Never Forget to Laugh, write me and say, I can so feel Bill's presence. People who never met him.
After they read it or while they're reading it?
She said, I've cried and cried because I miss him so much, and she'd never met him.
Wow.
So she's weeping over missing somebody she'd never met. The whole thing is just bizarre. But anyway, yes, Bill's a busy guy. He's being all over the place, and of course we are, all of us, all over the place. We're a non-local event, so to speak. So Bill is continuing to be helpful.
That's wonderful. I'll have to read that book and see if Bill comes to me. Well, my dog, Macy, she does that all the time because I work from home, so I'm with her, and she's sitting on the couch or whatever, and she'll look, and I can see she's looking at looking at someone, and then she'll follow, and and it's not just like what is she looking at? You know, it's I think it's a spirit or angel or something there, for sure.
If we could learn not to be afraid, if we could learn, and of course that's what all of this is about, is slowly trading in our fear for love. Yes. You know, and realizing we're loved, we're protected, we're cared for, we're safe. We're safe.
Thank you so much. This was a wonderful conversation around death, and you guys let us know in the comments below. Have you been visited by anyone? What do you think about death? Are you afraid? Have you had a near-death experience? And like this video if you like it so others can find it. Thanks so much. Bye. Bye, Carol.
Bye, honey. See you later.